Okay, Nolis, now, I know you wanted a workout program, but I felt that I wouldn't be a very good advisor or trainer if I didn't give you a little bit of heads up on proper nutrition is going to support this kind of exercise program, right? This program works off of stimulating the fight or flight response in our body, i.e. your adrenaline or noradrenaline, right? By stimulating the lactic acid in our body, lactic acid stimulates growth hormone, right? That growth hormone is what's going to come in because hormones are what? They're chemical messengers which tell our body what to do, right? Growth hormone is going to come in. It's going to tell our body to hold on to lean muscle tissue, right? And that's what we want to do. If you look at marathoners versus sprinters, right? And you look at their activity and the nature of what they're doing in their sports. You got sprinters that go out and they run short, intense workouts, right? I mean, with respect to both Olympic caliber athletes, both of them are eating very clean diets, right? So what changes is the macronutrient profile and the nature of their workout, right? Now, sprinters, they do that short, intense workout, and then they're in rest recovery, right? And what they're doing is they're stimulating that growth hormone, right? That growth hormone is telling their body to hold on to lean muscle tissue. So that's why they're flipping ripped, right? They're ripped and they're muscular, they're flexible, they're explosive, right? Now you look at marathoners, right? Now they're out there, they're running and running and running, right? And they're lean, they're relatively lean, but they don't really have a lot of muscle mass up here. They don't really have a lot of muscle mass up here, right? If you asked them to strap on a 50-pound vest and run 5 miles, they probably couldn't do it very fast, right? But they're super efficient at what they do, and they're super good at what they do because their body has been atrophied to a point where, the muscles that they need are still there, but the muscles that they don't use and don't need, they're atrophied to almost nothing, right? So what we want to do, right, is we want to stimulate the flight or fight response, so we want to stimulate growth hormone to maintain that lean muscle mass, and we want to create a caloric deficit, right? But it's not just about calories, right? Because calories in, calories out has never been proven. Never, ever, ever in a scientific laboratory has it been proven that calories in versus calories out is going to mean a weight loss, right? So if you, here's a theory that you see popularized in a lot of magazines, 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. If I, reduce my intake by 500 calories over the course of 7 days, 7 times 5 is 3,500, I should probably lose a pound of fat. And it sounds great, right? But that whole theory was developed by a man named Atwater, right? And he was using what's called a bomb calorimeter. And it's a perfectly enclosed environment, right? Where, you throw in carbohydrate, it comes out that has 4 calories, they burn everything up, all the energy recovered, and it's 4 grams of heat calorie, right? Then you throw in a gram of fat, it comes back 9. You throw in a gram of protein, it comes back 4. Throw in some alcohol, it comes back at 7, right? But our body is an enzyme system. It does not work just like a bomb calorimeter, right? So basically, calories in, calories out, throw it out the window because it's impartial. But what is the complete idea is creating a caloric deficit in the absence of insulin, right? Now, insulin is what's called a storage hormone, right? And all it does is it responds to carbohydrate, right? So, first most important concept that you can come to when it comes to nutrition is carbohydrate drives insulin, which drives fat. And what that means is, if you go out there and you eat, you have a candy bar, right? And the candy bar is super high glycemic, it's got sucrose in it, so it's going to spike your blood sugar, right? Now, blood sugar is toxic in our system, right? It has to, it gets digested, it gets into our bloodstream, but excess glucose gets fermented and is toxic in our system. So our body responds by the pancreas stimulating the response with insulin. Insulin comes in, binds to the macronutrients, it knocks on the cell door of the insulin receptors, and it gets shuttled into our cells for replenishment of tissue and glycogen, which our body runs off of. And then now what, right? We've got all this glucose, but we've got nowhere to put it, right? So if you would have had a crap load of candy bars, you got all this glucose in your system, now what? right? So there's one of three places that it can go. It can go to your liver, right? It can go to your muscles, and then it goes to the one place that doesn't become insulin resistant very fast, and that is your fat cells. Now, our fat cells can store an infinite amount of fat. That's why you got people that are out there 600 pounds and still getting fatter, right? And it's not because they're eating so many calories that they're getting fat. They're eating so many, they're not getting fat because they're eating so much. They're eating so much because they're getting fat. Now, I know that may not make a lot of sense, but here's what happens, right? You eat a lot of carbohydrate, right? It provides a lot of glucose. Glucose is toxic, right? So we got to shuttle that stuff into our cells somehow, right? So that's where insulin comes in. Insulin comes in, insulin binds to it, shows it to our liver. Once the liver's full, it goes to our muscle cells. Once they're full, then it goes to our fat cells, right? But the one thing that's really important about insulin is that insulin, in the presence of insulin, you don't burn fat. You store it, right? There's only two states your body is ever in, and that's a fed state and a fasted state, right? When you are in a fed state, when you have a lot of this stuff, this insulin, right, you're storing stuff. You're putting stuff in your cells, right? When you are fasted, when you have really low insulin, right, then you're burning stuff. You're mobilizing fat stores for energy, and that's what we want to do. And that's what high-intensity interval training or CrossFit does from one end of the spectrum, right? It stimulates that flight or fight response, keeping that growth hormone in the system, telling us to hold on to lean tissue, right? And providing that caloric deficit, which we need that caloric deficit in the absence of insulin for us to create any kind of bodily change or ratio change from muscle and fat, right? So muscle-fat ratio. So your goal is to get leaner, right? So you've already got a system in check for providing one end of the equation, which is going to be exercise, right? So what can you do throughout the day to elicit this change in your body to make yourself lean, right? It's not about counting calories, and it's not about fat being bad for you, because fat in the absence of carbohydrate is perfectly fine for you. It does not cause heart disease. There's plenty of sources that you can find that support this as well. However, if you go and have a quarter pounder of cheese with the bread, high glycemic white flour, that white flour is going to stimulate that insulin response. That insulin is going to come in, and again, in the presence of insulin, you do what? You store stuff. So all those calories that you ate for those fries and that quarter pounder of cheese, it's going to go to your fat cells, right? So what you're going to have, this is a tetrad, right? And right now you have, I'm going to say that your body fat percentage, this is just a guess, is at 22%, right? And we're going to lower it. We're going to have you be, we're going to say a healthy, we're going to put you at 19%, right? And then after you get to 19%, we're going to reassess, right? So over here, you have your prescription. So that's going to be what you're going to do to elicit this change, right? Because going from point A to point B, or down here, which is your aim, your ground. This is your aim, which is at 19%, right? Going from the ground to your aim isn't just a straight line. There's some other things that you have to do, right? So we got to go over here and we got to look at the prescription, right? So what's your prescription going to be? Your prescription is going to be 3 times per week high-intensity interval training, right? Which is awesome, right? So now you have your 3 WODs. You're going to do them 3 times a week. We're going to do this for 3 weeks, and then we're going to reassess and see where you're at. Maybe we'll transition you into the AMRAP stage of your workout. So now you have 3 times a week. Over here, you're going to need a carb-controlled diet. And what that means is by controlling your carbohydrate intake, you're going to control your insulin, right? See, we need some insulin, right? But we don't need too much, right? And what our nation has a huge problem with is hyperinsulinemia, right? Google hyperinsulinemia, and you'll see all the negative health effects that come with hyperinsulinemia. And hyperinsulinemia is a byproduct of overglucose, right? So we keep this carb intake low, and so what's going to be is going to be about, we're going to say 50 grams per day of carbohydrate, right? And ideally, the majority of your carbs are going to come after your workout, so post-WOD. And what that's going to do is we're going to take advantage of that insulin response. We're going to stimulate insulin response. It's going to come in, it's going to bind to that protein you're going to have after your workout, and it's going to bind to the carbohydrate. It's going to knock on the cell door with insulin receptors. It's going to come in, it's going to replenish your muscles' glycogen stores, and it's going to help with tissue regeneration. So you're going to have that recovery so you come back stronger for the next workout, right? So we have 50 grams per day, right? And this is going to be, what you're going to do, instead of having the extra carbohydrates, which you normally would do, you replace the carbohydrates that you normally would eat with protein and fat, right? And i.e. it would be like healthy fat, so coconut oil, olive oil, nuts, seeds, avocado, almond butter. You can have saturated fat from bacon, beef, pork, chicken. The saturated fat's not going to hurt you again in the absence of carbohydrates. So this is probably the most important part of this whole program, is controlling your carbs. Because again, if you elevate that insulin and you go and you work out, you're not going to be utilizing a large amount of body fat for fuel. And that's ideally what you want to do. What we're doing is rewiring your body to be more efficient at utilizing body fat at rest. Because at rest, you utilize the most percentage of fat, right? And as the intensity of your activity during the day increases, then the ratio of glycogen and fat, it shifts, right? So, like right now when you're sleeping, right, you're burning a crap load of fat, and you're not burning that much glucose, right, or glycogen, right? And then as you wake up and you start ramping up that intensity, right, that ratio shifts, and say you go for a sprint, right, and now you're up here, you're utilizing a crap load of glycogen, right, and not much fat, right? But then you come back down and you're going to be at rest, and you're going to be somewhere around here with the ratio of body fat and glycogen, right? So after a workout, right, we want to take advantage of that post-workout window, and that's within 45 minutes to an hour after you're working out. So you're going to have a post-shake, and again, I know you spoke with Sabrina and said that you're leery about using supplements. So I would say, a post-shake, and you have the right idea with what you guys agreed on. Chocolate milk, perfect. Chocolate milk's got protein. Chocolate milk's got fat. I would recommend full fat milk, not 1%, not 2%, because again, if you look at milk, fat-free or whole milk, you'll see that it has the same amount of carbohydrates, right? It has the same amount of protein. The only thing that differs is the fat. Now, we have a fat-phobic society, right? Now, logically, it's ridiculous that you take 1% of fat-free milk, right? Because you take the fat out of the equation and you speed up the gastric emptying, right? So it doesn't digest as slowly, right? So your blood sugar gets spiked real fast, right? And again, it contributes to that hyperinsulinemia, which is killing our society. Anyway, so your post-shake is going to be, I would say 1.5 cups to 2 cups of chocolate milk, ideally full fat, and you're going to be golden. Now, over here, you've got your resources. Basically, what can you use to help you on your quest to achieving this 19%? So, one, you got Sean as an advisor, right? Two, you got what I would recommend, a reading list. I would recommend the Paleo Solution by Rob Wolf, right? And then most importantly, I'll put an asterisk next to this one, is Good Calories, Bad Calories by Gary Taubes. Taubes. I would say this book, Good Calories, Bad Calories, is the most important nutrition book that you will read in relation to achieving this goal. Because the information that you learn from here is going to directly affect you lowering your body fat percentage by changing your diet, and you'll see why and how it works, right? And then I have a number of other books that I could recommend reading, but these two right here are probably the most important, right? And then again, the last resource, last thing that you're going to have that's going to aid you to getting this 19%, right, is going to be 6+ hours of sleep. And that's good, solid REM sleep, right? So yeah, that's a little bit of probably a little bit of overkill, but I thought it was very important for me to convey how important it is to have your diet in check too. Because if you're eating, if you're doing a workout like that and you're eating what most people consider to be healthy, so like most people gravitate when they're going to be healthy, they gravitate to fruit, right? And what most people don't know is fruit gets readily transferred into glycerol phosphate. Glycerol phosphate is directly related to fatty acid storage. So the more glycerol phosphate you have, the more fat you can store. And again, the reason we're trying to get lean isn't because we can look pretty. It's not so we can look attractive, right? It's so that we have less places for toxins to be stored, because we got a crap load of chemicals in our food. We got a crap load of chemicals in our environment. For instance, like me, when I'm working in the oil field, there's a lot of toxins that I'm exposed to, right? And where do a lot of these toxins get stored? A lot of them are fat soluble, right? So these toxins, they get stored in our fat cells, right? So if this is a fat cell, right, and it's this big, I got all this space to store toxins, right? So if I make my fat cell that big, if I'm super lean, I got less chances of being sick. And this is a large reason why people start doing an exercise program. You get somebody who's obese, and they start doing an exercise program, and they're running, they're doing traditional workout, right? And then they start utilizing that body fat, right? And these fat cells, they start getting smaller, and these toxins leach out, right? Where do these toxins go? They go into the blood, right? Now, if that person has a suppressed immune system, or they have a body that's not been conditioned and not in very good condition, very good shape, right, they're going to get sick, right? Which is a large reason why people who start a workout program, they start feeling lethargic, they start getting sick after the second week, and then they stop working out, right? And it's because we've become fat trappers. Anybody who has excess midsection abdominal fat, right, or in women, hips and buttocks fat, is in some degree insulin resistant. And what that means is it requires more insulin for your body to do the job. And again, insulin, all it does is it binds to macronutrients and shuttles stuff into cells. It's a storage hormone, right? So, I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, so yeah, it's important for us to get leaner, right? And you'll notice with getting leaner, you're going to feel you have more energy, because you're going to be conditioning yourself to run more off of body fat and not so much on sugar. And we have a lot of body fat readily available to fuel us during the day. You're going to sleep better. And again, you want to take that fish oil so that you're counteracting the effects of the modern American diet. So anyway, that's just a little heads up on nutrition. I know it's probably a little long-winded. If you have any questions whatsoever, let me know. And as you get better at these workouts, right, again, we'll transfer you into the AMRAP portion of them. And again, right now, all you're going to do is like writing down WOD 1, and it's going to be like every minute on the minute for 15 minutes, you're doing WOD 1, then like write down the date, and then every minute on the minute for, WOD 2, write down what you do. And then eventually, as you get to the AMRAP portion, we're going to start measuring the capacity, and we're going to start seeing how you improve, right? And as we focus on that capacity, I promise you, your body's going to change. You're going to get stronger, you're going to get more cardiovascular endurance, and you're going to get leaner. You're going to feel like you have more energy. And then you're going to be able to go out and you're going to be able to snowboard. You're going to be able to go out and ski. You're going to be able to, pick up Greta's toys, pick up a 50-pound bag of dog food, bend, squat, run, jump, tumble. You're going to be doing things athletically that you never thought you could. And that's what CrossFit's all about, right? It's unlocking the athlete in everybody. And so yeah. Anyways, I know I get a little passionate about what I'm talking about here, but yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know.